Hey, what's up everybody? Video 44 coming to another video. All right, so as I said in the last video, I was starting to make a therapy session. I realized I didn't have much to talk about, so I give y'all basketball content instead. What's the latest? I saw something on that was funny to me. It was a meme that essentially was talking. It had LeBron's face on one side of it saying, yo, my time's running out, can you improve the team? And then the other side of it said, I like Disneyland. And it was Rob Pelinka. Like, that was his response. And there was another one with Anthony Davis, same setup. And Anthony was like, hey man, I need a big man to run with. And of course, same response, I like Disneyland, or I love Disneyland. You know, I mean, it's not that simple, I'd imagine. As we've already discussed my speculation about how the things go in regards to the Lakers' options this offseason and what their team could potentially do to improve. But I think at the end of the day, not even small marginal moves were made, so it stands to reason why people would speculate that the Lakers were standing still or that Rob Pelinka wasn't doing his job. I don't think that's an unfair assessment, but I just have a different set of things that I'm looking at in regards to the team, and I just don't think the environment for us to improve was really there. But I do have some ideas in my mind that maybe we could have did a few small marginal moves, or could have gotten a second round pick, as we've talked about many times, stuff like that, that could have maybe given us a little more full of a roster. Some of the stuff that we did, I think, had to be politically driven. Other stuff just kind of fell into a certain space, like the Connect draft pick. I don't think the Lakers necessarily would have gone small forward, shooting guard, shooter, but since a player that talented was on the board, it's like, hell, we could use really the best player on the board at that point. So I definitely agree with taking Dalton Connect, but I also understood that in doing so, you probably have problems that you wouldn't have had if you would have just drafted a center. Obviously, some of the better centers are off the board as well. Zach Edey, Klingon, even Ware, I believe his name was, that went to the Heat. He's off the board. So at that point, the Lakers didn't really have the greatest options. And when you look at it, you just say, all right, well, can't miss what you never had, put it like that. Let's just take the best player available. So they did that. I think Dalton will be a great source of shooting and scoring for our team. If we can just get through this era where we have so many needs and not enough to trade with to make things happen. If we can somehow squeeze through this era without him being traded, I think 3-4 years down the road, he might be our leading scorer when LeBron's out of here, you know. He might be the guy that we go to for the most of our offense someday. I could totally see that with his talent and his motor for shooting and scoring. So I think he's a hell of a piece. I can't wait to see what he can do. I hope that he gets off to a good start with the injuries and stuff like that, not kicking his tail. And, hopefully our team can marginally improve where we are able to over the next several months. If the season progresses and we raise some of the value of some of our players, maybe we can get away with making a move or two that can ultimately put our team in the most advantageous position to maybe make a trade that may not be possible right now. So, this is optimism talking, man. To be honest with you, I don't have a whole great deal of optimism, simply because our team doesn't have those assets. And we do have a timeline that requires us to win right now. We may not be able to, And so that's kind of how bleak it looks for a lot of Laker fans. I think my thought on the process of what is necessary in order for us to improve, it's kind of proven in the idea that they're not making any moves. And so that's really what it comes down to. Can the team raise the value of guys like Max Christie, Gabe Vincent, guys like that who may be our best ticket at getting better if we can trade them for something that will otherwise help us do so, or if they just play so well that it's not necessary that we make a trade anymore. That's really what it comes down to. We do have some young players that can get a lot better, but in that same breath, it's like, until they do, we have about 5 minutes left on Bron and AD's prime level play. By the time they're good enough, Bron could be gone, AD could be gone, older, that kind of thing. So it's, the timelines just don't match for what it is that ultimately we have for the rest of our roster. And that's the unfortunate thing for being a Laker fan right now. Most of us fully understand that. And couple of that with the understanding, of course, we have a rookie coach. So it gets tricky. Now we're starting the season with two of our guys, Wood and Vanderbilt, are starting the season on the injury list. So it's like, all right, man, it's bleak. I believe that. I think most Laker fans are in that space with me. And you don't want to be in that spot when you have invested so much in your core with the expectations of winning a championship. It just seems like that would be something that you would try to do everything you can to assure was never even possible. And that's where I find myself most frustrated, as I've articulated many times. It's just like, I'm not mad at what the Lakers couldn't do right now. I'm mad that we put ourselves in a position so that these problems could actually be possible. This is why you don't do the Russell Westbrook trade, because if something goes wrong, this is what happens. And so that right there, in my opinion, should have kept the Lakers from actually pulling the trigger on a move like that. The risk were too great, with the timeline being too sensitive. That should have been a no. When Bron comes to you and say, let's get Russell Westbrook, the answer should have been no, because what it was possible if it went wrong. And I think that's people's responsibility, man, is to assess the risk level of doing certain things and making sure that they don't open the door up for things to go completely south just because you make one or two bad moves. Those two moves, the risk was too bad. You know what I mean? It was far greater than the reward. And we end up realizing the risk scenario, or rather the worst of it, of that risk. So it's like, come on, man. That's where I find myself frustrated. Some of the stuff the Lakers did, they just allowed themselves to take a risk that should not have happened. And in doing so, now we're in this position where the team can't get good enough despite having players ready to win at the top of it. So, and no way to improve without further doing stuff that is bad for you. It's just frustrating, man. It's really frustrating. And so that's what it is. Do you swallow a poison pill to try to go all in after making such terrible moves? You know what I mean? that put you in a position where you have very little wiggle room? Or do you bite the bullet, live with the fact that you're halfway mediocre with this fantastic core, and not further do anything that would otherwise harm your situation? And I think the latter is what the Lakers are choosing, and this is the result of that. Your team just doesn't look that great. And so I thought there was another option, but I don't think the Laker front office or the ownership thought that was an option, and that was moving on from AD and Bron so that you could reset the situation. I don't think they saw it as an option. You know, I don't think they saw that as something that would make them better in any way. And I think that's where also some criticism could fall on ownership, is that they assessed their circumstance that way. That's very frustrating, because if your team is not good enough to get better, and you have one now expectations and no path to building a team that can actually do so, you're setting yourself up for failure any damn way. And it seems to me that one could assess, without actually knowing the truth, one could look at it and say, oh, they're just being greedy, man. They just want the money that comes from having a guy like Bron and AD over the possibility of building something that could actually win. They would rather cash out on Bron and AD on a team they know damn well can't win, while taking all of our money and selling us the possibility of a championship. That's what it seems like. For those of us who, would spend money on games, obviously, and spend money on, all that would otherwise support the Lakers. It's like, y'all know y'all ain't selling us nothing that could do anything. Come on, man. It's just that kind of game plan that it seems like they fell into for the sake of money, and maybe that's necessary. But it's going to be resented by the fan base when you know damn well they can't win. And that's what it really comes down to. I know Jeannie may not be as wealthy as some of the other owners, so maybe she needs to cash out in some key areas, especially when you got LeBron James. But this takes me back to the sensitivity of what you were willing to risk, knowing what was on the line. That's what it comes back around to. It's like, all right, well, you know how much this meant to you, and you still let them take these risks in regards to these type of things with your assets? You still let them bring in Russell Westbrook? Like, when you knew that there was a chance if things went wrong, this would be here, and you still let it happen. You know what I'm saying? It's like, nah, that's where people can get frustrated. That's where you can see people starting to look at the Laker ownership and have real criticism. And so that's where my head goes as a fan, knowing that my team has little to no chance of actually winning a championship, but these super duper stars that if they were pretty much anywhere else would have at least enough to get better. It seems garbage, really, to be honest with everybody. It just seems like garbage that we're signing up to watch for 82 games and expecting to be ousted by teams that are just going to be built better than our squad. And the only people that really benefit from that is ownership. Because Rob definitely ain't benefiting from this decision, because he looks like a bad GM. Bron and AD only benefit partially because they're on a bad team and they're risking their bodies to and key time in their career to be a part of this. If money means that much to everybody, you got to understand that, so as I just described, so goes the reputation that you're doing your best job. So goes the reputation that you're actually here to win. So if you're cool with that, here comes the scrutiny. You feel me? Isn't it just easier to do things the right way? You can have everything. You can have your cake and eat it too if you do things the right way. And so that's what it comes down to. I think the NBA has always tried to articulate is a canvas, a set of 30 canvases that all of the best talent all over the world is flushed into. And what GMs and ownership have an opportunity to do, even though it's really restrictive, is take the best of the talent and mold it into whatever vision they may have for themselves. So that we would be afraid to take on that challenge again when we do have the advantage of the Laker brand in the LA market. It's really frustrating to me personally. I understand people don't want to rebuild because it takes a very long time. But the best talent in the world is only going to one of 30 places. They're going to one of 30 places, fam. So the chances that you're going to get some very good talent, it doesn't suck. It really doesn't, not if you rebuild. Now, if you don't know what you're doing in regards to hiring the proper scouts and doing the right homework, if you don't do your due diligence, then you increase the chances of things failing when you decide to rebuild or tank. But if you know what you're doing and you do the right thing, the chances of you failing, I don't think it's really that high, especially when you have this market. And so that people are hesitant to do so speaks to a lack of confidence in their ability to rebuild properly, a lack of understanding potentially in that assessment that everybody's coming somewhere in this damn league. And if there's constantly new talent coming in, state-of-the-art talent that you undoubtedly are going to want to pay, I don't understand why any team, especially in a situation where they can't succeed and they're getting scrutinized for building something that isn't good enough, would cower at the idea or shy away from the idea of being able to start the process of building something new. If you don't have any faith in your brain trust that can build something new, then that's where your investment money needs to be going. You get rid of the people that you don't believe can build something good, and you bring in some that can for the sake of rebuilding. And I just think people have a different way of looking at things in LA, and we're suffering for it as fans. It's time to rebuild. It is. When you've depleted all that you have to the point where you can't win with what you have, and the timeline is win now, it's time to rebuild, man. And I just think because LeBron James is such a massive cash cow, the greed factor, if I'm being completely frank with everybody, is getting in the way of what's ultimately going to give us an opportunity at something that could really win over the next couple of years. It's greed. People want to cash out on LeBron James superstardom at the expense of all of us who are rooting for the team, at the expense of the players who are on the team who are not good enough, not able to showcase themselves properly. We the ones that get to suffer for that. And it's bad. If I'm being honest, it's just bad. So when people say we have bad ownership, that's what I'd imagine they're talking about. I think Jeannie stands for the right things. I think she means well. I think she wants to win. I think she's capable of winning. She's already proven that. But when you make decisions like this, to keep going with something that cannot succeed or doesn't look like it can succeed, this is what comes with that. People are going to be very frustrated before they even go down the path. And with respect to other teams who are just happy to be in the room when it comes to the playoffs, our expectations have been too high to begin with. Furthermore, why the risk of doing certain things that would otherwise put you in a position to potentially have it all tear apart before you're ready for it to should not have been taken. Having people in place that didn't necessarily find themselves being expert at what they do, constantly hiring rookies to do jobs, rookie coaches, rookie GMs, that's part of the risk factor that probably should not have been taken. That's one of the things. It's like, yo, when your expectations are so high, your pieces are win now and Pantheon great, you don't hire rookies for any of these things. You don't take risk at pieces that can't necessarily succeed. That's a risk that's not worth it for you based on what you got going on. So I'm frustrated in the sense that I don't get the privilege of just getting angry at the team for not making moves this season. I know what led up to why they can't. I have to be revisionist in my mindset and say they made decisions that ultimately put themselves in this position, and those decisions were irresponsible to make. That's what I have to do with my knowledge. I can't sit up here and say why the Lakers didn't move, because I know better. I wouldn't be any good at what I do if I regurgitate what everybody else is saying. The Lakers should have made moves. No, the Lakers were not in a very advantageous, responsible space from which to do some of the things that were in place for them to do. And they created that environment by doing those things that they shouldn't have done. That is what it is. And it's like, and they're too greedy to start that process over because they stand to make too much money off of LeBron James running around in the uniform. That's just what it is, man. So your team is going to be not so good, and it's going to be because people don't want to rebuild. You know what I mean? They're afraid to rebuild. They know they ain't going to get a LeBron James in that rebuild. They've already made decisions that take away from what it is they had to rebuild. But they're so cautious, and rightfully so, which is the side of the fence that I'm on, might be a mistake, to go all in with the rest of what they have to try their best to make it work, or make it worth it, is what I'm trying to say. They don't want to go all in because they've already gone all in and it failed them. They've already done so much and now they have so little. And if they were to try to strike their rebuild after LeBron James leaves, they don't want to suck so bad that they don't even have a draft pick for the next 7 years after he leaves. Which is, in an exaggerated way, basically what they're signing up for if they go all in for the rest of this roster. So damn if you do, damned if you don't, damn either way for sure. And I'm tired of it, man. Laker fans are tired of it. There was always a third option. That third option was to not be greedy and let LeBron James and Anthony Davis go for pieces that could help jumpstart that damn rebuild. That was what I think was the better option for the future of this organization. For the maintaining of the standards after making a decision like that Russell Westbrook thing that failed. Your next bet was to try to cash out on everything and start over. But if the goal is money and not winning, then this definitely was the better decision after making such a mistake. And Westbrook wasn't the only mistake. That wasn't the only mistake, y'all. But it was the big one that basically depleted us of what would otherwise allow us to do enough to get better. That was the one. Both Westbrook trades, trading to get him and then trading him out of here, cost us 2 first-round picks. Our very own first-round picks, which we know are valuable based on the age of our players. All corners of it. The youth and them having a couple stars come in off of those draft picks if their team wasn't good enough. And the old guys, based on the fact that they're going to be leaving soon, and those picks would have been pretty good in those years because of it. It's just... And that's why I think if the Lakers are going to do anything, they need to be trying to contact the Utah Jazz to get that pick back, and the Atlanta Hawks, who've since traded for our first-round pick that we gave away. We need to get those 2 picks back if we really want to help ourselves. And the way I see it is, if I'm either one of those teams, I'm making it too expensive for you to get them any damn way. Because they're very good picks. And you probably are going to suck. You know, so it's... You're just going to watch a bad team and ain't nothing you can do about it, Laker fans. That's what it comes down to. At this point, it's too late to trade Bron. He's got a no-trade clause now. So that's over with. That's over with. You're stuck now. You're stuck in this timeline that ain't going to be good enough to win. And look, I don't absolve the stars for this. I don't absolve the stars for this. Because they could have been anywhere in the world. They chose to be in LA. And they knew they weren't good enough. They know they're not good enough, fam. They know that. Ron know this team ain't good enough to win. AD know this team ain't good enough to win. So they just as much in the doghouse, as far as I can tell in this assessment, if we looking at things clearly, as Jeannie would be, as Rob would be. Because they didn't have to do all, they didn't have to just lock into the LA Lakers knowing the team ain't good enough. They didn't have to do that. And many people are going to say, you should be thankful they did that. But if I ain't good enough to damn win, and it's their fault because they made it so that they taking so much of the cap that the team can't get better within the confines of the mistakes that have already been made for them, mind you, because they wanted Russell Westbrook. It's like, yo, man, why wouldn't somebody say they got a lot of the blame here? Why wouldn't a person who's paying attention to what I'm paying attention to say, you know, I can't honestly tell the American people who follow me that LeBron James is just giving you all the best in the world by re-signing with the team and asking for no trade clause when he knows damn well we ain't good enough to win. And likely would need to trade him to get better. It's just, it is what it is, man. And yes, it does hurt his legacy. Why? Because he has a standard for which winning is most definitely demanded. That's his standard. Been to the finals, what, 10 times? 4-6 record? Like, you want to win. You don't sign up for something that's not going to be good enough, man. You don't allow for your team on your request to take a risk that make your team not good enough, potentially. That should never have happened. One of Russell Westbrook, that didn't look good on paper. And then when he got here, we weren't ready to see him through the struggles. As an organization, as a team, as a fan base, we weren't ready to see him through those struggles. We weren't able to showcase him to be his best, and he wasn't able to deliver on that, which is on him too. But taking him on at $47 million and letting picks fly out and NBA champion players fly out the uniform to get him, you don't recover from that. You don't recover from that. And then furthermore, trading a pick to Danny Ainge to move on from him, you don't recover from that. Only to find yourself bringing back more one-way players, for which is already a problem for you. D'Lo, who only plays the offensive side. Vanderbilt, who only plays the defensive side. Beasley, who lost a lot of value in our uniform and ended up leaving for nothing. Nah, man. And you let a first-round pick exit in that trade? I mean, it felt good when we did it because we were so happy to get rid of Russell Westbrook. But now that we're here, that really was part of the problem. We weren't conservative enough with our picks at that point because of the urgency necessary to win and how much of a deterrent Russell Westbrook at $47 million expiring was to that process. You were going to either let him go for nothing or you're going to take back that deal, which will require you to give up a pick away. So it's like, yeah, was that the better of the two decisions? Of course, you got to move him on. You can't lose him for nothing at that price. But look at what the risk ultimately, look at what result came from taking that risk. Like, that should have been assessed by Rob Pelinka and Jeannie Buss and the Brain Trust before that ever even took place. They should have had that on the drawing board saying, nope, because if this goes wrong, this happens, and we can't let that happen. Salute to Kobe minute. Can't let that happen. I'm sorry, LeBron, but let me show you what this looks like if it goes wrong. That's what should have been said. And honestly, people were not ready to say that for whatever reason. And I really don't care who to blame, to be honest with you. Once you start talking about that trade and LeBron decided he wanted it, he got the leverage to force the Lakers' hand. That's the Lakers' fault. That's the Lakers' fault for valuing the money that LeBron James brings in over the competence of the roster you're putting together. That's your fault. When you know damn well there are other superstars in this league. Maybe not ones that can give you as much as LeBron James. And that's probably the point. Because winning is secondary to that massive amount of money that LeBron James brings in, and them ticket sales and jersey sales and movie TV sales and all this other stuff. And probably outside pressures from other corporations that want him in Los Angeles in a Laker uniform. Capitulating to all of that made it so that our team suffers. We're not good enough because of it. And I don't like that environment. It's the same thing that Kevin Durant was saying. It's not LeBron James. He's cool. It's the circus around him. This is what he was referring to. That's what he's referring to. And I tell you, LeBron James' finals record is not great. I think it would have been better if he wouldn't have been lobbying for certain things to get done in certain situations. He would have had more to work with at the end of the season. If he didn't ask for Tristan Thompson to get paid. If he didn't take so much from Miami. These are things that you have to sacrifice in order to ensure your team is good enough to win so that you can really truly compete. And then when people start talking about who's the GOAT and who's not, you don't have a Scottie Pippen taking like a third of what he could take so that the rest of your team could be very good. You need somebody to sacrifice like that. And that's also on LeBron James because I know that he knows that. I know he knows that. With you being LeBron James, if you would have taken a pay cut, you could have rigged the whole league. You talk about rigging the league. You would have never lost a single championship because your team would have been too damn souped up. And since you like playing that way, I don't understand why that wasn't something considered. Especially when there's so many other ways to make money if you're LeBron James. Especially if you're winning. I don't know, man. I think you might have left some money on the table by taking too much off of the cap. I really believe that. I think in the long run, from the outside looking in, if he would have been unblemished in his championship record, he'd have made more money. He'd have had even more leverage. Like, I really believe that. And so these are things that just, I don't know, man. Hindsight's 20/20. I'm sure if people could rewind and they knew exactly what it take to get what ultimately would be the best possible outcome, obviously they do all that over again a different way. I'm not here to bash people, asking them to make decisions that can't be made or asking them to undo stuff that's already done that can't be undone. I'm just saying when I'm assessing my frustration, I know what led up to it. When I assess my team not being good enough, I know what led up to it. You know what I'm saying? And that's frustrating. And somebody should be held accountable for that. If this team doesn't succeed in any way this year, heads should roll, man. I'm not gonna lie. Heads should roll. Because you backed us into this damn corner, and this corner is unnecessary. And it's foreseeable when you consider what the options were and what the risk factors were for the decisions that were made. You know damn well what could go wrong when you do certain things, and you still go down that path, take that risk, and it goes bad. Well, heads got to roll now. That's it. Heads got to roll. It ain't personal. It's just the process of getting better. So that's my point of view, man. I don't doubt there's nothing we can do. This probably is the best thing you can do now is nothing. I've been saying that all summer. But that don't mean I don't get to sit here in my frustration and start looking around and saying, how the hell did we get here? And that I'm not happy about being in this situation. Hey, I get to do that. That's fair as a fan. That's fair. So yeah, man, I don't look at this as a rant. This is identification of how we got to this point and why our outlook doesn't look very good for this roster. We can blame the fact that some of these players aren't better or whatever you want to say, but it's the vision. the vision and the intentions and the willing to take risks that ultimately pan poorly and out poorly. That's what it comes down to. And just that you don't want to do that when you have so much on the line, when it means so much to you that you keep this guy who happens to make so much money for you. Win or lose, you just got to keep him happy. It's like, nah, that ultimately puts you in a position to be out with people looking at you like you didn't do your job correctly, like you didn't manage your property correctly if you're Genie Bus. You know what I'm saying? That's mismanagement. That's what people call bad ownership, man. So I don't know. I think that at this point, we just sit back and watch whatever it's going to be with the low expectations that we already have. And if the team happens to overachieve, we feel great about that, but it's not set up for us to do that. It's just not. You know, it's not set up for us to overachieve. And so if they happen to make it overachieve, we'll celebrate that, but it's not like we're going to resolve them of the choices that put us in a bad position in the first place. That I won't do. You won't hear me say, oh, I'm sorry. No, I ain't going to be sorry. I'll just be grateful that the team was able to overcome the adversity created by these decisions. That's all that's going to be. I don't want to hear nobody say, Brandon, you owe them an apology. No, I won't. Because this is how it's set up. That don't necessarily mean it's going to play out that way. But if you start yourself from behind the 8 ball and you happen to win the game any damn way, it didn't mean that you weren't behind the damn 8 ball. It just means that you happen to win any damn way. Congratulations for getting yourself out of that massive hole. That's all that'll ever be for me. So I don't have a fortune cookie that's going to tell me what the Lakers are going to do or any path to reading the future in any way. I want to see the Lakers succeed this season. I want to see Bron and AD get another championship. And strange things have happened. Injuries can happen to every team in the league, and all of a sudden you're the best team in the league off by default. That's wonderful. Hope it happens. Not in that fashion, but I'd like to be a winner. But how this thing is set up, I think we'd be very pleased to make the play-in tournament again. I think we'd be very pleased to win 45 games. You know, I really do believe that. And that is not acceptable when you have the type of talent at the top of this damn thing that we have. And LeBron James and Anthony Davis, that is not acceptable. Not at all. And I'm just jumping ahead of it. I know there's going to be tweets throughout the season if things go as badly as I think they may. People are going to be calling for people's heads. People are going to be holding people accountable. I'm ahead of that. I'm already doing that now before it even starts. You know what I'm saying? We ain't waiting. So that's where my head is right now, man. And I'm hopeful that guys can overachieve and, you know, be experts at what they do despite not having the opportunities last year, Max Christie. And that's such a bad space to start that young fella off. Now he has the responsibility of being sharp out there when the last coach that we had didn't even allow him to develop in a key development year for his career because he wanted to play Taurean Prince, his homeboy, who was, by all accounts, based on very, very prestigious basketball minds who analyze this game, we were worse for having him on the floor, just like I said in the beginning. We were worse for that. I guess that was something. You see that? Yeah. But we were worse for that, man. We were worse for that, in my opinion. We were worse for that in a lot of people's opinion. And look, I don't doubt that there are other opportunities for this team. If we would have just allowed players like Max Christie a bit more playing time. If we would have just taken a guy like Cam Whitmore like he was supposed to be taken in that situation. Decisions that were made by the same brain trust that ultimately left us not as good as we could be. You know, literally. That Jalen Hood-Schifino decision. Nah, at all. Not at all. Not at all. You know what I'm saying? Not getting the center in opportunities where maybe it was possible. Not at all. All of this is bad. So I don't blame Laker fans for being frustrated. I don't blame them for demanding that things get done, especially when nobody's explaining to them why exactly things ain't getting done. If anything, they're telling everybody that they should be done. Yeah, I don't blame people for being upset, for looking at this thing like it's about to fail. For even wanting people out of here. I don't blame nobody for that, man. Hopefully this team goes 50 wins, man. Hopefully we have a hell of a season. Bron and AD both have MVP type seasons, first team All NBA seasons. Austin Reeves break out. Max Christie, has a great year. D'Angelo Russell has a career year shooting the ball. All of that is necessary. Dalton Connect, rookie of the year. Like, we're gonna need all of that. In a tough Western Conference. You know what I'm saying? Maybe we can get all of those things coming together. Gabe Vincent turned back the clock and turned back into who he was in Miami. Christian Wood comes back healthy, gives us 70 games rather. Cam Reddish taps into who he was back in Duke. It's like a lot of stuff that just doesn't look like it's about to happen. Needs to happen. Jalen Hood-Schifino has a good second year, rookie season / it's basically a rookie season for him. But he gets healthy and stays healthy and then contributes at a high level. And it's like, yeah, you hope all this happens. But Darvin Ham didn't set us up for none of that to be possible by not playing some of these guys. Jalen is a whole other story, but like, we didn't develop guys last year. We really didn't. Darvin was very intentional on just going with his guys, people that he remembered working with in the past. Cam Reddish and Taurean Prince. So with that, on top of the environment that we, were willing to take a risk that didn't pan out, just made us extremely bad. He should have been fired sooner, in my opinion. To stop the bleeding, both mentally for our roster last year and hopefully provide us a different strategy from which we were working with at the time. And that was a situation that should not have been allowed to carry forth throughout the course of the whole season. Especially when everybody was already out on him halfway through the season. I just think there's a certain level of neglect that is fair to assess there. And so when I see memes like I saw today, with people saying that, hey, things should be done and it doesn't look like Rob is doing his job, it doesn't. BDL 44. I thank y'all for watching.